So with this optic, you have the ease of reaching out to targets of 300 to 600 yards, and that should be pretty easy even for a soldier to do. Welcome back, everybody. Clint here today with Classic Firearms, here to talk about some 7.62 awesomeness. And it's not necessarily about the M110A1 that has ultimately been fielded to replace the M14 EBR. Well, that's just an M14. We don't have an actual EBR because, well, Sage is kind of difficult to get those from. But, you know, it is what it is. But also the M110. And the M110 is I always thought a pretty cool rifle. Imagine just the AR-10, the SR-25 that was in development with Eugene Stoner and, well, Knight's Armament. And the M110 is, well, that, you know, semi-auto sniper system that the United States Army and other special operations have been using for quite some time. And the United States Army said, you know what we need? We need something that can effectively engage targets between 300 to 600 meters, be getting a little bit more compact. So enter the CSAS, the compact semi-auto sniper system. And on top of that, it needs to be somewhat modular, so you can, you know, attachments and things like that. And, well, HK developed this. Kind of. Again, this is the DMR 7.62A1. But let's talk about this really quick, because some people are already talking about the M110, which is a little bit more capable than like the A1 that HK has developed, because it's got a slightly longer barrel. I think it's got like a 20-inch barrel on it. It also has that, you know, shrouded type of silencer where it actually fits over the barrel and it kind of meets right up to the rail, and it's a really cool looking design. And so it has this really long suppressor system too, which is pretty cool. But the Army's kind of like, you know, we've got sniper systems that, you know, reach out to those distances that that we need. What we need is that, you know, that squad designated marksman rifle role, or again, that compact sniper, semi-auto sniper system that's going to allow us to get those quick and accurate follow-up shots between that 300 to 600 mark. Anything beyond that, yeah, we got snipers for that, all right? So enter HK and the M110A1. What are some of the differences between like the standard M110 and the A1? Well, one of them, right off the bat, it's not a direct impingement design like the M110 is. Again, think of your standard AR-10, which actually predates the AR-15, going way on back. A direct impingement design utilizing the gas tube that we all know and love on the AR-15, right? We've all probably built one of those by now. If you haven't, hop on that. But as the gases travel down the barrel and force that projectile out the muzzle, what happens is there's a gas block here, again on the direct impingement rifles, and those gases travel up through a gas tube, interface with the actual bolt carrier group, and forces the bolt carrier back, extracting that next round. The buffer then pushes the system forward and, well, strips and chambers the next round. Cool, right? Easy design. The M110A1, and very similar to the MR762, actually exactly the same, is a short stroke piston driven design. So instead of having those gases traveling through a gas tube and right back into the bolt carrier, what happens is those gases are now coming through the gas block, which is seated pretty much right in line where the bipod is, and they come through here, they make contact with an operation rod, or a piston in this case. It moves rearward with a self-contained spring system in here, strikes on the actual bolt carrier group, which has enough force and momentum behind it to send it rearward, where the buffer system, similar again to the AR design, pushes it forward and does its job to strip that next round out of the magazine and chamber it. While that takes place, this op rod or piston is now moving forward and getting back into place, ready for that next follow-up shot. It's a little bit more complicated, but it is also a little bit more of a cleaner design. HK is also, they're pretty loud when they say it's also more reliable. So there you have it. And they even say in the instructor's manual, more reliable than your standard AR design. So it's like, okay, well, I mean, we're not going to disagree, right? I mean, piston-driven designs like the AK, which utilizes a slightly different version, as a long stroke design. Instead of the piston being separate from the bolt carrier group, the long stroke design of like the AK is connected to the bolt carrier. So it all moves like this, instead of like that type of, where this comes back and hits that, and that goes forward, and then that goes forward. There's a lot happening in here, all right? But with that being said, it is, yes, a clean shooting and reliably shooting gun. And on top of that, HK is renowned for some of their cold hammer forged barrels, and they wanted, again, something more compact. This only has a 16.3-inch barrel on it, as does the M110A1. This is very similar to the M110A1, down to the stock. I think they actually put more of a 2-stage precision trigger in the M110A1. This has a nice trigger, but it's not exactly a precision trigger in my mind. It also doesn't have a forward assist like the HK MR762 does. All right. Another thing the Army wanted was something a little bit lighter. So the M110, which can come in, anywhere between 14 rounds, give or take, depending on how you have it outfitted, clean, the M110A1 is coming in at about 8.8 pounds. So a little bit lighter, which is kind of a nice thing. However, I mean, it's still a chunky boy, that's for sure. But because of, again, that shorter barrel, that's going to be reducing quite a bit of weight. Now, the optic that we have on the MR762A1 is the Vortex PST 3 to 15 power. What's on the M110A1 is actually exactly this optic, which we literally just got in today. Or else we would have probably put this on here and did like a mock 110A1 giveaway. But this just came in, and this is a military over 1 SIG Tango 6 1 to 6 power first focal plane optic with SIG's own titanium mount also. I mean, this is a pretty cool setup. And as we were kind of looking over these optics too, I'm noticing that there's definitely some, like, these have been clamped down on something before and perhaps shot. So since these are military overrun, well, what that means to me is these were probably used in my mind. So maybe for some trials or something like that, then stripped off the gun, different optic was put on. I don't know, but it seems pretty freaking cool to me if you ask me. And on top of that, I mean, it's really freaking cool. So you have the ease of reaching out to targets of 300 to 600 yards. And that should be pretty easy even for a soldier to do. Anyway, one other cool feature about this, quite simply something I thought was kind of neat, is the fact that the lens caps have this little magnetic piece in them to make sure that thing stays down, which is pretty cool. So it has enough resistance to where it's like, not gonna like fall off or up or whatever. And then they're also spring loaded in here as well. So kind of a cool thing, all right? Now, another really unique thing about the M110A1 is its rail. What you see right here is kind of HK's M-Lock rail with the Picatinny running up top. A very similar rail designed by Geisley looks kind of like this, but it backs all the way up to the receiver. You don't have this gap right here. So that's kind of a neat thing. And with that, it's also got more of a tan color that has really low IR observable properties. So it doesn't reflect as much under night vision or anything like that. So again, to try and, well, keep you hidden, which again makes sense to me, all right? So the M110A1 as United States Army's new combat semi-auto sniper system, I think it has a place. I think it's pretty cool. And it really, honestly, I think the Marine Corps is probably going to be looking at this eventually. We already have the M27, which is HK's, the IAR, and it is pretty much the 416, but 5.56, of course, and it utilizes the exact same operating system, looks very similar to an extent, and it just, well, as far as strategy goes and tactics, it kind of makes sense, right? You kind of don't want your designated marksmen or your snipers or your machine gunners all to stand out from everybody else because, well, you're an anomaly, you're a target, right? So if you've got some guy that can engage targets at a greater distance and another guy that can engage a bunch of targets because they're laying down suppressing fire, well, if I was an enemy sniper, I'd probably aim for those two guys first. Just saying. So it's nice to have firearms that look similar to one another that might not be as easily identifiable to maybe an untrained enemy eye. Maybe untrained in that sense. And so it'd be kind of a nice thing to just all kind of look the same, right? Have that uniform that the military is known for. And on top of that, another thing that's kind of coming with this package is also OSS, or now known as Huxworks, suppressor. What we have right here is not the same thing because this is a 5.56 silencer, but HK and their M110A1 has been set up to use this. Kind of, but it's 7.62 and it's their QD system. It's still a baffle system compared to the 3D printed system that the Flow 5.56K is right here. Is Huxworks going to come out with a 7.62 Flow K silencer that is 3D printed and has all these really intricate and complicated chambers for gases to get caught up in? Probably. And if you've ever seen their QD silencer shoot at night, there's definitely a flash signature. All of these escaping gases coming out the front of the silencer, which is a neat thing because that prevents a lot more gases and overpressure back into the gun, which helps kind of like maintain the parts instead of just expedite the wear. All those escaping gases coming out the silencer are great for that. However, escaping gases, expanding when they're still hot, that's still going to give you a little bit more of a sound signature. And if they're still relatively hotter than most silencers, then it's probably still going to give you a flash signature as well. So with this and them being 3D printed, which offers a lot more complicated system on the internals for these gases to kind of flow into, get it? 556 flow, or the flow 556K. Well, now that has a lot more time for these gases to cool down and, well, exit the front of the silencer. So by the time these gases are starting to escape, they've cooled down enough to where you don't have to worry about as much sound because these gases aren't expanding and reacting to the cool air. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about as much as a flash signature as well. When we've interviewed Huxworks before, they are very proud of this silencer and they're talking about, yes, we have a significant reduction on flash, on that first round pop and everything else. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Well, let's try it out. And we have. And it is pretty freaking cool. So it's an excellent silencer if you guys are looking for that. And maybe that's going to be given away on that SCAR 16 up there one day. So anyway, the Huxworks silencer included in the M110A1, I think is an awesome little setup. Now, some of the quirky things about the HK M110 or MR762, for instance, they've got specific magazines that it has to run that are HK mags. And unfortunately, the only two mags that we have for this one are 10-round mags. Of course, they make 20-round mags. I don't know of any other capacity. But if we had the option to run AR-10 mags, like the P mags, SR-25 mags, whatever it might be, that would be something I think probably a little bit more better. Because for one, they're more available, offered in different capacities, and not as expensive, let's just be honest. So there's that. All right, but at the end of the day, does it feed reliably and shoot very, very well? Yes, it does. And we can talk about that for just a second too, because in the giveaway video, I got to do a little bit of running and gunning with this exact same setup, which again is very similar, very, very, very similar to the M110A1, and it is a very pleasant shooting rifle. However, is a little heavy, even though it's, still not as heavy as the bigger, longer M110, but it's still a fairly sizable gun. So trying to manipulate this guy and, run it around and switch to your sidearm and shoot, speaking from personal experience, can be a little cumbersome, but because you have that shortened barrel, makes it a little bit easier to maneuver as well. So I understand the entire compact semi-auto sniper system and why the United States Army is looking to transition to that and get kind of away from these really long engagement rifles like the M110, which granted is only about maybe shooting at another 200 meters or so beyond what this one's capable of. So is it that big of a deal? Maybe just aim higher, I guess. I don't know. But I'm not a sniper. I just shoot them. I don't know if I'm doing it right. But anyway, these things shoot really, really well. They are accurate, reliable, able to get those quick follow-up shots, run a little bit cooler, and they're awesome guns, especially and very accurate with that cold hammer forged barrel that HK offers. The short stroke piston design, yes, does offer a little bit more reliability over a DI system because you don't have a lot of gases coming back into the actual meat and potatoes back here where everything's happening, especially if you're shooting suppressed, because naturally you are going to get a little bit more back pressure. You're going to get a little bit more gases flowing back into the system. And if any of you have shot a DI gun, especially a shorty, even a 16-inch DI gun with a silencer on it compared to not shooting it with a silencer on it, depending on the type of silencer you're shooting with, you're probably going to get something back to the face because those gases are traveling down and even escaping out the bulk carrier group and even back here at the charging handle and going up underneath your eye protection and making you cry tears of freedom. But, it's cool. I'm not mad about it. So other than that, it's an ergonomic design. It's comfortable. It's got AR controls, which we all mostly know. The G28 stock is kind of a funky thing. You got the cheek piece that actually kind of slides with you a little bit depending on how you have the stock extended. Notice how that kind of stays right where it is. So that way you have that same cheek weld no matter where this is extended. You're just adjusting your length of pull, not exactly your contact surface, which is a pretty cool thing as well. So that'll move with you if you move, or if you move your stock, it'll stay put. So neat little thing, right? Trigger on it's good. I can shoot it pretty quick. Not much I need to say about that, I don't think. So SIG's 1:6 first focal plane optic is really awesome as well. Coming with the titanium mount, as you see here, that is also SIG's that I've talked about. Just overall, a really, really nice setup, nice design. Looks good if you ask me as well. They did it right. I'm actually curious if this optic has the low IR properties as well, since the gun itself that it's supposed to be mounted on does. That would make sense, right? Because I kind of don't want this thing glowing under night vision when it's right beside my face. So I mean, I guess you guys can see that it looks like to me that it's reflecting under IR. Right now we have one of the PS15 AGM night vision goggles with an IR illuminator on. And so we're just literally holding that up to the lens right now so you guys can see how this reflects. And, you know, John, you're doing a good job, don't move. And so now you can see the rifle with the bipod. The sling, I think, lights up pretty bright. So all of that, I think, is a pretty nifty little thing. So talking about whether or not the SIG optic is coated in the same type of material that's IR low observable, you tell me what you guys think down in the comment section below. So that was a pretty fun experiment, and yes, I was just using some ATN PS15s. I mean, they're cheap night vision, but they're second gen night vision. That's dual tubes, that's pretty cool, and